Shocking emergency, officer's daughter rushed to hospital after disturbing weekend with mom. The sirens wailed like a banshee, echoing through the rattled streets of Maplewood. Young Ava was in the back seat, her pale face twisted in pain, clutching her stomach as if her very insides were trying to escape. Just hours earlier, she and her mom, a local police officer, had been at the small, bustling fair, bright lights and laughter everywhere. But now it was chaos. The chaotic scene of the fair loomed in Ava's mind, the sudden darkness of the night consuming an unforgettable moment of joy. Ava's cheeks were flushed, an unnatural hue that made the anxiety in the air palpable. What had happened? Her thoughts spiraled. The cotton candy, that magnificent mess of pink fluff, lay abandoned, and in its wake, the taste of bitterness festering in her mouth. She remembered the whispers, unsettling murmurs about the shadowy figure lurking near the games booth. Could that have been it? The sharp crack of the Ferris wheel cab as it momentarily shuddered on its way up, an omen? In that moment, the night transformed from merry to menacing. The car screeched to a halt outside the hospital. The bright fluorescent lights pierced the darkness, blinding and cold. Ava felt her heart racing, almost echoing the sirens. Nurses darted around like fireflies, bright scrubs in a panic, and the room spun as they rushed her inside. Her mom's face, usually stoic and unwavering, was filled with raw, unfiltered fear. It was the kind of fear that wrapped around you like a thick fog, smothering hope. What had happened to her little girl? As they wheeled Ava in, the chaos behind her faded into a haunting silence, a silence which only amplified the mounting dread. Suddenly, she gasped, a lump forming in her throat. Mom. The word barely squeaked out, like a fragile whisper caught in a storm. But what returned was just the sound of her own pulse thundering in her ears, drowning everything else out. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A fractured moment occurred as Ava's mom turned, her eyes glazed but fierce. I'll be right here, she promised, yet the empty space between them felt colossal. What did they do on that day? What evil shadow had followed them home from that fair, and was it too late? Ava's breath grew shallow, a sheer sheet of ice creeping over her skin. She watched as the doctors gathered, their faces a chorus of urgency, discussing symptoms, but no answers were sinking in, only the rising swell of panic in her chest. And then, it hit her, a flash of memory, a glimpse of the dark figure dancing amidst the twinkling light of the fairground. What did he want? Why were they being drawn into this nightmare? And just like that, the door burst open, and she braced herself for the storm of truths that would change everything. What lay ahead was a mystery unfurling with each terrifying second. The fluorescent lights buzzed ominously as Ava was wheeled into the stark white room, and her gaze darted around. Machines beeped rhythmically, promising care, but to Ava, they felt like ominous warnings of the battle raging inside her. Something was very wrong. The worry nestled deep in her mom's eyes, reflected back at her, and the weight of it made her want to shrink into the gurney. Ava's heart raced. She tried to focus on a ceiling tile, but the bright light above seemed to revolve in dizzying circles. What if she never made it out of here? Her breaths quickened. Shadows flickered in her memory, an elusive figure from the fair worming its way into her thoughts. Uncertainty tightened inside her like a noose. Who was that figure? Why had she felt so uneasy? Stay with me, Ava, her mom's voice pierced the fog, her hand gripping Ava's tightly, warmth fighting against the dread. But there was a tremor in her mom's voice, a hint of helplessness that Ava wasn't used to. Would her mom crack under the pressure? A hasty doctor appeared, his expression grave. We're going to take good care of her, he assured her mom, but Ava noticed the steel in his voice that screamed of urgency. They rushed around like dancers preparing for a performance, first checking her vitals, then asking rapid-fire questions that Ava couldn't answer because her thoughts felt like a tangled mess. Did you eat anything unusual? How long have you been feeling this way? A flurry of questions buzzed around her, and she tried desperately to recall the events leading up to this moment. What had triggered the pain? It came flooding back. The food, the laughter, the chilling whispers, especially those whispered warnings against the shadowy figure moving in the distance. Suddenly, her mom leaned closer, searching Ava's eyes with a fierce intensity. "Ava, honey, what do you remember about the fair?" The urgency made Ava shiver. Her mom's voice faded into the background as her memories collided: the thrill of the games, the moment of unease when she first spotted the figure. I felt sick after the candy," Ava finally managed to croak, her voice barely a whisper. "But there was someone. I think he was following us." The words clung to her throat like a bitter taste. She saw her mother's face pale, the worry morphing into something deeper and more frantic. "What do you mean?" Her mom's grip tightened, her eyes wide and searching. "What did he look like?" Before Ava could respond, the door burst open again, and a nurse hurried in. In an instant, every eye was on her. The nurse quickly assessed Ava, turning to the doctor with a solemn nod. "We need to run tests immediately." The words struck with the finality of a judge's gavel. Ava's mom looked ready to spring into action, demanding information, but before she could speak, the doctor intervened. "Please step outside for a moment. We need to get her stabilized." "No. I want to stay with her." Her mom fought back, desperation lining her voice. "Ma'am, we need to work quickly. If you care about your daughter's health, give us a moment." The last glimpse of her mom's shocked face was seared into Ava's brain as they wheeled her away. Fear washed over her like a frigid wave. What were they going to find? As the testing began, Ava felt trapped beneath the shrill beeping and indistinct chatter. For now, she was powerless. But one thing remained clear: whatever darkness had followed them home wasn't done yet. The shadows were closing in, and for the first time in her life, she wondered if what she had feared was not only lurking in her memories but was also coming to claim her future. What was about to unfold? Ava's thoughts raced like a wild river as she lay on the gurney. The antiseptic smell of the room stung her nose, and the cold touch of the stretcher sent chills down her spine. Each beep of the machine was like a countdown, echoing her rising panic. She tried to breathe, drawing in shallow gasps, but it felt like the air slipped through her fingers. What was happening to her? The numbness creeping over her body mingled with a deeper fear and knowledge that the figure from the fair had to be linked to this. But how? Her heart pounded in rhythm with a sinking realization: this wasn't just about feeling sick. The doctor's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. "We're going to start the 4 now, Ava. Just a little poke." His words dripped with practiced calm, yet the urgency in his movements contradicted them. Ava could see the strain around his eyes, telltale signs of a serious situation. "Please," Ava managed to croak, her voice barely rising above the cacophony of medical equipment. "What's wrong with me?" The doctor's gaze met hers, and for a moment their eyes locked. He hesitated, and in that fleeting pause, Ava sensed the truth: they didn't know. Just then, a scream echoed down the hallway, echoing like a thunderclap against the sterile walls. The noise felt familiar, pulling memories from the depths of her mind. A scream she couldn't quite place, wedged in the shadows, just out of reach. "Ava!" Her mom's voice suddenly pierced through the room, frantic and desperate. It was a lifeline. She turned her head, trying to push away the fog clouding her vision. There was her mom, bursting into the room, eyes wide and frantic, just as she had seen them a moment ago. The doctor quickly stepped in front of her, blocking any further advance. "Ma'am, we need you to wait outside," he urged. "What's happening to her?" Her mother's voice wavered, raw with fear. "Please, just a few minutes," the doctor pressed firmly, and Ava could feel her mother's hesitation, the rope tightening around her heart. Ava closed her eyes, wishing she could just curl up and disappear. "Stay with me, Ava," her mom pleaded, fighting back tears. Ava felt warmth in her mother's voice, pulling her back from the edge of the unknown. Minutes crawled by, feeling like hours. Suddenly, Ava's eyes snapped open. There it was again, the scream. This time it cut through the clamor of machines, sharper and more distinct. The doctor's attention shifted, and Ava used that precious moment to strain her ears to listen. It was like something ancient struggling to break free. The sound wrapped itself around her thoughts, tightening like a vice. Then, through the flurry of nurses and doctors chasing information, another presence loomed just outside the doorway. A shadow lingered there, dark and still. Ethereal whispers seemed to float in the air, curling around her, pulling her attention toward the edge of a mounting dread. Who was it? What is happening? She screamed, panic rising like bile in her throat. Ava. Her mother's voice surged as the doctor stepped back from her bed, searching the room. The machines began to beep erratically, and Ava's heart pounded in sync with each discordant sound. She caught her mother's worried glance shifted beyond the door, glimmers of something dark reflecting in the fluorescent lights. A moment of glaring silence enveloped them before the sudden crash of the door swung wide open. A figure stepped inside, shrouded in shadow, and for the first time, Ava could see the face lurking behind it, all of her fears converging into one harrowing reality, and in that instant, she realized she hadn't just been followed, she had been marked. What had the fear awakened? What did that figure want with her? It all spiraled as the figure raised a hand, and the room fell into chaos once more. The hand moved slowly, a deliberate gesture that filled the air with an icy dread. Ava's heart thundered in her chest, every beat punctuated by the relentless beeping of the machines surrounding her. The figure stepped forward, its face all too familiar. Traces of shadows danced across sickly pale skin, and unmistakable eyes glinted like shards of glass. Who are you? Ava's voice trembled, a whisper laced with terror. The figure smiled, a cruel, twisted grin that sent a chill racing down her spine. I've come for you, Ava. Each word echoed, a dark promise woven into the very fabric of the room. Her mother's frantic murmurs faded away, swallowed by a heavy fog of panic. No. You stay away from her. Even in the chaos, Ava could feel her mother's desperation radiating like heat from a fire, fierce and unyielding. But the figure ignored her mother's plea, stepping closer, as if drawn by an unseen thread. You don't understand, it said, voice low and mocking. This has already been set in motion. Ava's body felt numb, suffocating under an invisible weight. What did it mean? Set in motion? She struggled against the gurney, but the very act of defiance felt futile, as though she were fighting against the tide. In that moment, the machines began to blare, each beep igniting frantic energy in the medical personnel around her. Doctors and nurses rushed toward the doorway, but the dark figure stood still, an immovable object amidst the storm. The air thickened, charged with a tangible fear, as though the very essence of dread enveloped them all. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting erratic shadows that pulsed against the sterile walls. A chaos of voices erupted around her, the doctors shouting orders, her mother's cries mingling with the shrieks of alarm, but none of it reached Ava. Every sound felt muffled, distorted, as if she were caught in a dangerous dream. Ava. Her mother shouted again, pushing through the chaos. You're going to be fine. But as Ava looked into the cold, unyielding eyes of the figure, she felt that soothing comfort shatter. This wasn't going to end well. Then, without warning, the figure lunged. Time squealed to a halt as Ava braced herself. The world around her began to blur and twist, tendrils of darkness creeping into her mind. She gasped, and the last breath escaped her lungs as everything dimmed. She felt herself being pulled, not just physically, but into something more profound, more terrifying. No. Her mother cried out, reaching for her. But the distance felt insurmountable, the chaos closing in like a vice. Everything faded to black. Ava jolted awake, her surroundings spinning wildly. She wasn't on the gurney anymore. The sterile smells were gone, replaced by damp earth and the sweet musty scent of decay. The noise of the hospital was replaced by a deafening silence. Confusion enveloped her. Where was she? The figure stood at a distance, watching her. Shadows contorted around it, an unsettling dance. What do you want? Ava gasped, regaining her breath. The figure took a slow step forward, its voice a soft hiss, to show you the truth. Ava's heart raced again, panic rising in her throat. The truth? What truth was there left to uncover? Is that where this ends? Her voice wavered. Or just where it begins? The figure smiled again, the darkness clinging to it like an old friend. Welcome to your new reality, Ava. And remember, the fair never really let you go. The shadows encroached, swirling like a tempest. And amidst the chaos, she felt her reality shift once more, like a whirlpool threatening to consume her whole. Ava gasped as she blinked against the dim light that surrounded her, disoriented. It wasn't just the pitch-black void she'd left behind. This new place felt alive and suffocating, as though the walls themselves were breathing. Panicking, she found herself in a cramped room, the shadows whispering dark secrets. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of mold and something rancid. She pushed herself up, desperate to take stock of her surroundings. Where am I? She murmured, confusion blurring her focus. She swept her gaze around the eerily quiet chamber. Rusted metal bars lined one side of the room, and the walls were splattered with dark stains that hinted at something sinister. Do you remember? The figure's voice echoed, cold and dripping with malice. Ava turned sharply, and there it was, its silhouette carved against the flickering light. What do you want from me? She cried, fists clenched as adrenaline coursed through her veins. I want you to see. The figure stepped closer, and Ava felt her breath hitch. See what? See what your life has become. The choices you've made. Each word dripped with sinister satisfaction, twisting her stomach into knots. And who you truly are. Suddenly, a series of images danced before her eyes, flickering like an old film reel, moments she thought she had buried. The laughter of friends turned hollow, the joy of her mother's smile fading into shadows, and then darkness. A violent memory. A flurry of fear followed by silence. No. No. Stop. She pressed her palms against her ears, trying to block out the cacophony of her past, drowning her voice. But it was too late. She could hear the whispers, the laughter carrying an edge of cruelty, voices taunting and accusing. Do you not remember? The figure pressed, its voice rising above the din. Weekend spent shrouded in lies, the fairy tales your mother spun. A wave of realization washed over her as the echoes intensified, drowning her in despair. She had always thought they were innocent stories meant to be comforting. But now, they felt like traps. Some truths hidden among the sweeter tales. The pain in her chest morphed into rage, and she shot back to face the figure, her resolve hardening. I won't let you manipulate me. There must be a way out. The figure's laughter pierced the air, a sound so chilling it sent a shiver running down her spine. There is no escape, Ava. You belong here. We all do. The game has just begun. As it spoke, the room began to tremble, the ground quaking beneath her feet as the walls twisted and turned. Shadows converged, flickering ominously, and the air grew thick with despair. Don't let them win. Ava shouted, her words splattering against the chaos like shards of glass. She turned, searching for a way out, her heart pounding in defiance. For the first time in this nightmare, she felt a flicker of hope. There had to be a way to fight back, a way to break free from this twisted reality. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the quaking halted, leaving a charged stillness. The figure loomed closer, its breath warm against her skin, sinister. You're not ready for the truth, Ava. But I will be waiting when you are. And with that, the world around her spun again, pulling her down into the murky depths of her own mind. Darkness swallowed her once more. As her consciousness faded, a question echoed in her head: what truth lay in the depths of her forgotten memories? Would confronting them break her chains or shatter her forever? Ava felt her mind pulled in 1,000 directions. The darkness twirled around her, thick and heavy, but it was no longer smothering. Now, it felt like a pulse. A heartbeat, she gasped as images sliced through her consciousness once more, like jagged glass. Muffled voices echoed, familiar yet distant. Her father's laughter, a sound that should have been safe, now felt tainted with sorrow. She found herself back in the grip of that twisted reality, the memories pouring over her in a relentless tide. Why can't I escape? She whispered, battling the despair creeping into her chest. She could feel the weight of judgment in that unnerving silence, the truth lying in wait just beyond her grasp. A sudden shift pulled her into a vivid scene engulfed in color. Children played beneath a ceaseless, azure sky, laughter ringing out like chimes. In the center stood a younger Ava, innocent and bright. But lurking in the shadows was a dark figure, watching her with eyes that burned like coals. Your perfect world isn't what it seems, the figure taunted, its voice mingling with the past, wrapping around her like vines. Her breath quickened as the innocence began to fade, replaced by a gripping fear. I don't want to see. Ava screamed as her surroundings shattered into a kaleidoscope of fear, each fragment tearing apart her perceptions. The laughter of children twisted into cries for help. The sun darkened behind ominous clouds, shadows stretching and warping into grotesque shapes. A chilling realization gripped her heart: this isn't just my past, it's a nightmare I've created. The walls of her mind groaned under the weight of her understanding, the landscape transformed again, it had morphed into the living room of her childhood home. Her mother, bathed in warmth, woven into every comforting memory. But all love requests had a price. You're not enough, Ava, her mother's voice slithered through the air like smoke. You need to be perfect for the family to stay whole. Stop. Just stop. Her screams echoed, bouncing off invisible walls, and she fell to the floor. The carpet soaked up her tears. Each sob dug deeper into her soul, clawing at long-hidden fears. A door creaked open, drawing her gaze. What if you embraced your flaws instead? What if imperfection is the truth you're looking for? The dark figure now hovered at the threshold, its shadow stretching over her. This time, its voice lost some of its menace. The challenge hanging in the air was tangible. Ava forced herself to meet its gaze, each heartbeat pounding with the weight of dread. I don't know how. Don't you see? I've been running from who I am. It's your only way out, it hissed back, narrowing the gap between them, every inch charged with tension. With a sudden jolt, the door slammed shut, a jarring noise that resonated within her. The walls folded in, closing her in once more, pulsing ominously. No. Ava whirled around, a newfound urgency igniting her limbs. I refuse to be trapped. Just as hope ignited in her chest, the ground quaked violently, as if her own truth fought back. She was thrust into yet another memory, horrific, blood-stained, and brimming with betrayal. Faces of those she loved twisted into masks of disdain. The laughter morphed again into whispers of shame. Open your eyes, Ava. The force of the dark figure's voice ricocheted through her. Your memories don't define you, but they do hold the key. Will you embrace them? Swallowed by doubt, she faced the rising tide of emotions crashing against her resolve. Every heartbeat echoed with a question hanging in the damp, stale air: would uncovering her truths free her or dismantle the fragments that kept her alive? As she hesitated, the shadows watched with hungry anticipation. The darkness around her thickened, whispering promises and threats intertwined. They were poised to devour her completely unless she dared to confront what lay ahead. Just as her resolve wavered, the room flickered, like a glitch in reality, a glimpse of another way. What will you choose, Ava? The voice challenged again. She steadied her breath, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The darkness felt sharper now, more alive, as she realized a choice loomed, a choice between confronting the burning shadows or succumbing to the illusions that threatened to swallow her whole. What awaited her on the other side? Would she confront the darkness or succumb to its embrace? Amid the swirling chaos, Ava's heart raced as the shadowy figure loomed closer, its eyes boring into her soul. Fear tightened its grip around her throat, every instinct screamed for her to flee. But there was nowhere to run. She was trapped within her own mind, surrounded by memories that felt more like prison bars rather than passages to escape. "Face it, Ava." The figure roared, its voice now layered with an unsettling urgency. "Your past is not just a collection of trauma, it contains the power to set you free." With each pulse of the darkness, she felt the weight of her memories bearing down, each one a reminder of her failures and regrets. The laughter of children, the warmth of her mother's embrace, the piercing disdain from those she loved, each moment a weapon, poised to cut her down. Tears carved paths down her cheeks as she managed to whisper, I can't bear the weight anymore." Suddenly, a blinding light flashed before her, tearing through the shadows like a knife. In that moment of brilliance, the memories flickered. She glimpsed fragments of her father, a man she barely recognized through the haze of heartache. Laughter that once felt joyous now twisted into something almost grotesque, an echo of a life now ruptured. "Remember who you are." The figure beckoned, its tone no longer menacing but almost pleading. "Uncover your truth. There lies your freedom." The urgency of its message pierced through the fog of despair. Would embracing her past truly set her free? Her fingers trembled as she thought about each memory, each painful moment she had buried deep. Suddenly, she was standing in front of a mirror, yet the reflection staring back was not just her, it was a swirl of every version of herself she had ever been. The innocent child. The rebellious teenager. The confused young adult. "You're every piece of yourself, Ava," she murmured, the realization hitting her with the weight of a thunderclap. "To be free I must embrace all of me." The black shadow recoiled for the first time, its hold weakening as it began to sway. Then take the first step. Just then, the darkness surged, a wave of anxiety crashing over her. The ground quaked beneath her, pulling her down into an abyss of swirling past events. She felt herself slipping, falling, as the memories stacked higher and higher like a tsunami about to break. "No!" she screamed, clawing at the air, desperate to grab hold of something solid. Frantic, she grasped at the threads of her consciousness, as vivid images of the people she loved flashed before her: her mother, her father, a friend with bright laughter, a stranger whose eyes held a secret. With terror rising in her chest, Ava realized she was losing her grip. "I have to confront this," she shouted into the ever-thickening darkness. "I will not be a prisoner of my past." Just as the last strands began to slip from her fingers, a fierce determination ignited in her soul. What would happen if she faced the darkness rather than shrink from it? With newfound resolve, she dug deep within herself, summoning every ounce of courage and strength she could muster. Then, in a heartbeat, she let go, letting the darkness envelop her completely. She embraced it, feeling the rush of chaos around her, letting the memories collide with her present. What would she awaken to? A new reality sewn together by acceptance, or an even deeper abyss? As the shadows threatened to pull her under, one thought pierced through the cacophony: will I conquer this darkness, or will it conquer me? The darkness pressed in around Ava like a tightening noose, but instead of suffocating her, it transformed. Within that swirling chaos, she felt a flicker of warmth, as if embers ignited in her very bones. She stayed in the moment, allowing the shadows to swirl, waiting to see what would emerge, and then, like a slow unwinding, memories burst forth, vivid and insistent. She stood in her childhood bedroom, toys strewn across the floor. Sunlight streamed in through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing lazily in the air. Her mother, vibrant and laughing, played dress-up with her as they spun in circles, giggling until they collapsed on the floor, breathless with joy. But within the joyful memory, darkness lurked. A flash of her father's disappointed face invaded her thoughts, tarnishing the laughter. "You'll never be enough," he had said once, words still sharp enough to draw blood even years later. Ava's heart thundered against the onslaught, but she pressed deeper, refusing to back away this time. She felt the pull of another memory, the stinging sensation of rejection from that high school hallway where she stood, invisible to the world. Hatred, born of insecurity, had surged within her after that confrontation with a supposed friend. "You don't belong with us. Go back to where you came from," the girl had hissed, eyes narrowed. The pain cut deep. Anger boiled in her gut. She wanted to scream, fight, demand respect. Instead, she had retreated into silence. "No more." Ava cried out, her voice rising like a battle cry. Those moments were hers to own. She refused to let them define her. She grappled with the shadows, pulling them closer instead of shying away. The laughter, the tears, the pain, they all belonged to her story. The figure in the darkness reappeared, its features shifting yet again, morphing into the faces of everyone who had ever hurt her. Anger ignited in her. They had no control over how she felt about herself anymore. "I choose to remember," she shouted defiantly. "I'm not just what they made me." That was when the shadows shifted. They morphed from oppressive entities into swirling strands of light, glistening and alive. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Each strand whispered secrets, truths of her life woven into the tapestry of who she was. Acceptance began to fill her soul, and it was a light she never thought she would find within the darkness. But just as hope dared to blossom, the shadows recoiled, regrouping like a storm preparing for battle. The voice of the figure transformed into a deep, menacing growl. "You think you can escape?" it hissed. "You are bound by your fears." Suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath her, sending her tumbling into a vast chasm of swirling memories. She fought against the pull, desperately clutching the threads of light she had discovered. "I am not my fears. I am me." The swirling energies crackled with tension, teetering on the edge of liberation or collapse. Above, she glimpsed a flicker of familiar faces, all the people who had ever believed in her. They reached toward her, urging her on, and with their momentum, she found herself soaring back toward the surface. Ava's pulse raced as she broke through the surface. Had she found freedom at last? Or was this just another trap? As the darkness surged behind her, ready to consume her once more, her only whisper became a silent scream. "Am I truly free, or is this just an illusion?" Ava gasped as she emerged from the churning depths, the swirling shadows retreating as she heaved herself up onto solid ground. The air felt thick, almost electric, and the remnants of memories crackled around her like a fading storm. She blinked against the brightness of her surroundings and noted the stark reality confronting her. Was she truly standing on the edge of something new? Before she could gather her thoughts, a dark figure flickered just within the edges of vision. Panic surged through her, the shadows still threatening to close in. "No. You don't own me," she cried, trembling. But the words felt feeble in the face of the menacing presence. A chilling laugh echoed from the figure, its hollow voice mocking. "You think you can reject me? The true you remains buried beneath layers of doubt, regret, and your endless fears." The entire environment shifted, morphing into the small cafe where she had spent countless solitary hours, surrounded by the chatter of friends and strangers alike. But this time, the warmth of the place felt sinister. Shadows stretched across the floor like hands reaching out, warning her that every memory, every encounter, was being twisted. "Why are you here?" Ava questioned, her voice trembling but determined. "Because you brought me with you," the figure hissed, its form shifting, the once familiar face of her childhood enemy materializing, a painful reminder of hurt. "Every time you fell, every time you doubted yourself, I was there, feasting on your despair." Ava stepped backward, heart racing. This was not a memory, it was a nightmare creeping into her reality. She could feel her breath quickening, fear clutching at her throat. But then she felt it, the threads of light still igniting within her. They thrummed like a heartbeat, whispering assurance against the fear. "I recognize you now," she replied, her voice firm. "You're just a reflection of all my failures, and I won't let you dictate my life anymore. The figure writhed, face transforming into a multitude of those who had ever hurt her. Her father's disappointed gaze, the sneering laughter of that girl from school, they all showed discomfort in their own familiar ways. Each memory was a thread in the tapestry of her life, but now they were fraying. Every thread leads back here, the figure snarled. You think you can unravel me? You're mistaken. You're trapped in this cycle, and I am your anchor. Suddenly, the air thickened as a high-pitched ringing filled her ears. The ground began to tremble again, as if the very surface beneath her was a brewing volcano. Ava felt herself teetering on the edge, caught between light and dark, hope and despair. Enough! She commanded, the threads of light coiling around her like protective vines. But just as she thought she could hold firm against the chaos, the earth cracked open beneath her, its vastness threatening to swallow her whole. Her instincts kicked in, urging her to jump, to cling to the light that had sustained her. She sensed the tumultuous energies shifting around, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like an opportunity. A conversation filled with doubt and fear echoed behind her, but ahead lay a blinding brilliance, an unfamiliar freedom, breaking through the shadows. Ava inhaled deeply, preparing to leap toward that light. Would she discover acceptance, or would the darkness pull her back once more? Would this leap prove to be her salvation or her greatest folly? Ava jumped, her heart thundering as she propelled herself into the unknown. Time slowed, and in that moment, she felt alive. Every fear, every burden, faded away, leaving only clarity. As she soared through the shimmer of light, everything else fell away. Suddenly, a rush of warmth enveloped her. She landed softly on a grassy hill, the sun shining down as if welcoming her back from the darkness. She blinked, taking in the vibrant scene around her. Children played joyfully in the distance, laughter filling the air. It was paradise, a stark contrast to the chilling shadows from before, but something stirred within her. A fleeting glance back at the darkness she had just escaped. The shadowy figure stood at the mouth of an abyss, its features unreadable. But this time, she didn't feel the crushing fear that had previously held her hostage. Instead, a spark of defiance ignited in her chest. She wouldn't let it control her any longer. You lost your power when I chose to embrace my truth, Ava declared boldly. The figure snarled, eyes narrowing, but she stood her ground. It stepped back, its form flickering, as if losing its connection to her. This is not over, Ava, it warned, but the tremor in its voice spoke volumes. Maybe not for you, but it is for me, Ava replied, the confidence blossoming within her. She turned away, marching down the hill toward the laughter. Each step felt lighter, guiding her away from the shadows and toward the warmth of memories yet to be made. When she reached the group of children, they paused, their eyes wide with wonder. A little girl stepped forward, her smile bright. Play with us? She asked, innocence radiating from her. Ava's heart swelled. Absolutely. Let us play. The fear of rejection and the need to prove herself disappeared. With each laugh shared, the shadows grew fainter behind her, a lingering reminder but no longer a threat. Her mom appeared on the sidelines, watching with tears of pride welling in her eyes. Ava ran to her, enveloping her in a tight hug. I'm okay, Mom. I'm finally okay. Thank God, her mother whispered, relief flooding her voice. They stood together, warmth blooming between them, as the tension of the past melted away. No longer shrouded in darkness, Ava embraced each part of her experience, the pain, the fear, the strength. With her mother by her side, the truth set her free. We can face anything together, Ava promised. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the scene, she took a deep breath, feeling light, powerful, and renewed. She had faced her fears and emerged whole. The figure, once looming over her life, had lost its grip. It was then she knew the journey was only just beginning. The shadows would whisper, but she now had the strength to confront them head-on. A new chapter awaited her, full of hope, acceptance, and the courage to be herself. She turned back, a final glance at the abyss behind her. You don't own me. She yelled, transformation rippling through her as the shadows faded into nothing. With her head held high, Ava took her place among the joyous sounds echoing through the field, free at last, not just from the past, but ready to embrace the future with every ounce of heart she had. The light of the sunset signaled her journey ahead, brighter, bolder, and filled with the promise of life, and as she laughed, it rang out like a beacon, calling others who had lost their way, igniting hope in their hearts too. She was ready to share her truth, to inspire others to step into the light, just as she had. Now was the time for true connection, true joy. Ava was ready, and nothing could take that away. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that dive into the depths of hope and struggle just like Ava's. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find their own light. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Ava's incredible journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support, because only true fans understand how these actions bring us all together.